Hi Flosstube, Felicity here. I'm starting my very first Flosstube channel. I've created a channel under Felicity Fish, cross stitcher, as on Instagram I'm known as Felicity Fish, and it's a nickname I've had since high school. I live near Adelaide in South Australia. It's about 20 minutes away. Don't often go into the city, but we're still classed as metro. I'm a high school teacher, okay, so I'm qualified to teach maths, science and biology. Currently teaching year 9s, 10s and 11s at the moment in various subjects. So while during the week I don't get a lot of time to stitch because I'm either marking or planning, most of my weekends is when I get time to actually sit down and stitch. Over the last couple of years I actually have been watching Flosstube. I was watching under another account name called Felicity Rose, which is also the same name as what I am on Facebook. I do participate in quite a lot of Facebook groups, mainly showing off my Heaven and Earth design, but there's also been a couple other designs along the way. I do just have notes down on the table next to me just to help me out about what I'm going to talk about, making sure I don't forget anything. So if I look down, that's why. I first found cross stitch, I've known cross stitch basically all my life. My mum did do a cross stitch for me as a birth sampler. It used to hang up in my room. It's just sitting there at the moment. That's the only ever cross stitch she does. She normally does more knitting and crochet. There are two people that I used to love as grandparents, Nana Sheila and Grandpa. They always used to give us for Christmas and birthdays little cards that were cross stitched. Sometimes they use like pin stitch as well, so that was like where they have a design and it was all pin stitched with different thread. Also, Nana Sheila did for me a fairy. I don't know the name of it. It hangs in my room. I think it's on some type of Aida, not hand dyed, just normal Aida with some metallic thread. And she's also done a fan that has my name on it. For Mum and Dad, she has done several kits. I think one of them is some kitty cats underneath a Christmas tree. There's the 12 Disciples at the Lord's Supper, and a couple other musical instrument ones as well. I can always remember Mum telling me the story of Nana Sheila giving Mum this cross-stitch kit about with the kitty cats and underneath the Christmas tree and the presents to Mum as a Christmas gift, and then taking it back saying, "Do you want me to do it?" And Mum goes, "Yes, sure." So that's always happened. Unfortunately, we lost Nana Sheila when I was 12, 13, so year 7 in Australia school, last year of high school in South Australia. And then what happened when I was in year 10, my grandfather got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He didn't want to have any treatment at all. So in memory of him, Mum and I went to Spotlight, which is our local craft store, and picked up a couple of small kits. She then taught me how to start cross stitching, and I did a couple of small little designs just to start off with. That year also my niece was going to be born, and I found a Dimensions birth sampler kit at Spotlight, bought that, and that was my very first big project. From there I did quite a few different types of projects. Sometimes they took me a while, sometimes they didn't. I always used to get told from friends at school that, "Why are you doing that? It's such a grandma's hobby. That's not fun at all." Then I started another cross stitch from my niece Chloe, a Tinkerbell one. Overall that did take me 3 years, mainly because I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down. Then I found this amazing community on Facebook. I didn't realise until then that there was Facebook groups for cross stitch. I joined those. That gave me the motivation to finish Tinkerbell, got it framed, started off a couple of other new mini kits, joined a sale, and then we went down the rabbit hole from there. So what I think we'll do is we'll probably just start off with WIPS first. Then we'll go through some finishes, go through some kits and patterns that I hopefully will stitch soon sometime, and finish off with a teeny little bit of haul. Mostly my videos will probably only be about once a month because I stitch big projects, so there's not a lot of progress otherwise. I'm also trying to remember to stare at the camera rather than staring at the screen because I'm using my iPad. So the camera's over here, but then the screen's here. So give me a bit. Alright, so the WIP that I mainly stitch on at the moment is Elsa, charted by Heaven Earth Designs, but the original artwork's by Anna Dittman. I will insert a picture here when I figure out how to do it of what the final design is going to look like. Bear with me a bit, I've done quite a lot on this, so it's going to be interesting trying to get all of it into the camera. She's also still on my quantum frames because I've been stitching on her and they've just come off my frame, my big stand as well. Alright, so as I said, this is probably the biggest project I've ever actually stitched. I also do parking quite a lot, so yeah. This project I started the 12th of May in 2015. So we've just gone over a year and a month. 2 years, sorry. Been working on her for 2 years and a month so far. Actually, just going to take her out the frames. Might just be easier. Bear with me. I'll put her back in later. Whoops. Alright. So this WIP has probably been my main stress reliever, being a school teacher. She's followed me around to 3 different schools so far. I'm only still relatively new to teaching, so this is what I use as a stress reliever. Let me just get the other end out as well, and it'll be easier to show you what's going on. Sorry, just a message that came up on my iPad that I'll deal with later. Oh wow, 7 minutes already. I honestly thought this was only to take 10 minutes, so that's a major surprise for me. Whoops. Alright, so we'll see how we go. I may need to stand up to show you her. But she's stitched on 22 count, it's just pale white. Using all the regular DMC colours. There is supposed to be chronic, however you say it, in this, but I substituted out and used Petite Treasure Braid instead. So we'll just slowly go up and see how we're going to. Alright, yeah, I'm going to have to stand up to show you this one. Right, so done the first mainly over halfway. Alright, I'm starting to work down the bottom here. So when I first started stitching this, I started stitching on a Q-snap. Just come in and see if I can show you the shimmer because she is quite shiny. See how we go. Can you see that? I hope so. So the thing about this project, she's actually going to be for my niece. My niece is now 9. She turns 10 in October. She is an absolutely major Elsa nut. Let me just bring her up so you can see where I've been working on her lately. She is a major Elsa nut. I wanted to do something that was Elsa related for Chloe, but also a modern lady at the same time. And when I saw this release, I'm like, oh my god, I have to do her. So yeah, it might be another year or so until Chloe gets this because I roughly stitch about a page a month. If it's a partial page, it's normally about 2 pages a month. No, half a page. If it's a half a page, it normally takes me 2 weeks. Aren't her eyes just stunning? Let's just get a close. They're really stunning, so lifelike. I can remember stitching them and was using some of the challenge on the Heaven and Earth Designs board. and using parking. Oh my god, for parking. I don't think I would have got through the confetti if it wasn't for parking. It's going up. The most recent row that I've just finished is the one where we've got this major snowflake on the left, on the right, near the mouth, got her chin, and we're going from there. As you can see, I do park page by page. I don't park within my page because otherwise I find it really hard. Sometimes I do when it's like major confetti with the eyes, I do. But at the moment, I'm just in a sea of cream, beiges, and greys. So I do grid, okay? So I grid page by page as well. And let's just bear with me. This might be a bit wonky, but we'll go in closer. This is the page I'm currently working on. Whoops. Sorry. Getting used to this. Alright, so as you can see there, a lot of that is just cream. A lot of this page is going to be cream. It's continuing on with the snowflake. I'm hoping once I finish with this video tonight to actually sit down and stitch on her. Oh, I should have mentioned today is Friday. I think it's the 16th of June. Don't quote me on it. It's been a long day at school. So hopefully I'll get a lot of time to sit down and stitch on her tonight. And hopefully tomorrow as well. But yeah, that's my Elsa. She is really, really lovely. I'm loving stitching on 25 count, 22 count, okay? I just bought this at the local Spotlight a couple of years ago. That was before I even knew about hand-dyed fabric and things like that. But honestly, for a heaven and earth design, I wouldn't bother using hand-dyed fabric. This is my opinion. I wouldn't bother with it because it's a full coverage piece. There are some that I know that are not full coverage pieces, but then that's a really good idea to use hand-dyed fabric. Other than that, I don't know. I just go with what I have. So this is where she's up to. I do have another row of pages to go. So I've got this row of pages, and then I have yet another row of pages underneath as well. So going down from there. So what I've shown you now is 20 pages out of a total of 35. Technically the last 5 pages, they're only like 3 mini rows. So I don't really count them as pages. I normally just say, all right, it's 20 pages out of 30. Because, yeah, the last is just tiny. So I only have 10 pages left to go. I would like to show her every year in Adelaide. We have the Royal Adelaide Show. It's a show where all the agriculture people come in and show off their produce. We have lots of horse shows. All the cows come off to be shown as well. Schools get a part of it when they have an ag program. People who, like local South Australian stores, like food produce, what's the word? People who create like jams and marmalades and other type of foods also come in. We call it Taste Australia. It's a major thing. I used to help out quite a lot at the show with my aunt. She is in the Marylands tourism, so I used to help out there, which meant every year I used to go to the show, help out on the stand. What I love about the show though is there's always a selection of needlework. Just as cool needlework. Mainly it's cross stitch, but they always show needlework, quilting, lace, all sorts of crafts. What I would love to do with Elsa is when she's finished and she's framed, is to actually put it into the show. I'm not worried about actually winning anything. I know most of my stitches look okay, but there are a couple of iffy ones there. My back is horrendous. Don't even talk about my back. I'm not even going to show you that. But I want to show her off. I want other people out there in Adelaide around my age or even younger to say, hey, cross stitch is not just a hobby. It's not just an old ladies thing. You don't just do samplers. There's actually a lot more out there. There's these amazing Mirabilia patterns, Nora Corbett patterns, Heaven and Earth designs. That is going to be a stunning piece of art when it's done. So I just want to show her off. I mean, by that time, I probably put 3 or 4 years of work into her. I just want to show her off to the community because she's going to be amazing. Probably this time last year, I had no idea what she was going to look like. I think I was only just stitching the eyes by then. Ever since I've got the eyes done, it's just been a roll-on. As I said, I did take Elsa to 3 different schools. When I first got my teacher's registration, I was lucky enough to gain a contract for 4 weeks up at a place called Flosstube. Flosstube's about 3.5 hours away driving from Adelaide. So it's up in the Riverland. It was a very small school. It was an interesting place. I started off with 4 weeks there, had 2 weeks holiday, and then I got extended out another 6 weeks. So I had 10 weeks in total, which was an amazing experience. Going from university to out teaching, there is a major gap between that. I think in that first 10 weeks, I learnt so much. My stress relief was stitching on Elsa. I took her up there and I just had to stitch on her. I've also travelled with her. I know it's a very big piece. This was when I was still using still stitching on her with Q-snaps. I took her on a cruise over to, which one was it? South Pacific Islands, on a princess cruise over the school holidays, all wrapped in Q-snaps. I think when we came back, that was the first time I had the very top row of pages all finished, so only 5 pages finished. Then I received a contract down at another school, this time only an hour away from home, so it was down in the southern region. Lovely school, lovely area. I drove an hour there and an hour back each day. That's why I still used Elsa as my project. Okay, she's still, yeah. I can't remember how many pages, but I did finish so many last year. Then what I've done, we went away again over the holidays this year. I didn't take Elsa with me because I did buy my frame and my stand, and that's what she's mainly stitched on there. I think since I bought my frame, I've actually stitched way more on her than I ever have before. And I think that's continuing. I'm going to see how I go with this page. It's quite lots of creams. I might get part of this page done, swap over to another project for a bit and then come back. But most of the time I'm a one project stitcher. Alright, that's probably enough about Elsa. One of the, let me just double check my notes. Just want to make sure I've said everything. As I said, I'm stitching a 22 count and it's 2 over 1. So I'm using 2 threads over 1. Yep, okay. My next WIP is also a Heaven Earth Designs. This one is Once Upon a Time, Quick Stitch by Amy Stewart. Again, I will insert a picture. Because of this one, because of my main focus of Elsa, I've only finished one page on here. Okay, we'll see how we go. So this is the page that I finished. It's I start in the corner. Alright, so I've started in the corner and I work down. The next page I'll probably go across to do is this page here. But as you see, again, I've parked all my threads. Okay, this is also stitched on 22 count. It's a different type of fabric. It's not the same type of fabric as Elsa, but it's the same count. Either way, I'm loving it. I started this on the 1st of January 2016 and I finished this page sometime last year. I took it down with me to Tasmania in the July school holidays and I think I stitched on that mainly. It's been put away for the moment, again, because of Elsa. I'll probably either bring this one out or one of the other ones out for the holiday that we're going on in July. Again, 2 over 1 on 22 count. Put that over there. The next WIP that I have is actually my first Mirabilia. This one here was the first couple of different firsts for me. Again, I started it on the 1st of January 2016, and I think it's for the Cross Stitch and Discuss sale. I know that group doesn't actually exist anymore, but I did love seeing things. There are things on there. Here we go. Again, same thing. Let me just take her off the bars and we'll go from there. I'm stitching her on 32 count, even weave. It's called Dryscapes, and it's from Sew It All in Australia. This is my very first time ever stitching on even weave. So it's taken me a little time to get used to it. I probably actually show you what the pattern's going to look like rather than just you bring on about it. This will also be my very first time beading. I've never beaded before. I do have all the beads for her, and there's only one metallic. It's acrylic, I think, and it's only used for the back stitch. So she's not super blingy. Was on my frame because I was hoping to get back to stitch on her sometime, which means I just have to change the frame down. The one that I am stitching is called Roses of Provence. Now, how are we going to do this to show you without the glare? There we go. So, my favourite colour is purple. There's so many purples and pinks in this one. My middle name is Rose, which is why I love the roses. So this is Roses of Provence. These lovely Provence roses are also known as cabbage roses. They have a strong sweet smell and a double bloom form. Their many petals add to their luscious volume. They are beautifully stitched on linen or scattering their petals through the wind, in the wind through an English garden. Okay, so it was recommended to stitch on 32 count white linen. I'm still doing it on 32 count, but it's Dryscapes from Sew It All. This one here has quite a lot of DMC floss. One Krennic, which is the number 4 braid 150V, and it's only used for the back stitch. There is 7 different type of beads, so there's 4 normal beads and 3 different types of treasures. What I have done is, because I work at a school, I have made a working copy of this, and I do highlight as I go. So this pattern, it's not highlighted on at all. And this is what she looks like so far. I might have to put something behind. I'll see how we go. I can see what we're doing through the fabric. Alright, so this is where I'm up to. So I've done the top part of her dress. I'm actually going to stand up so I see what I'm doing. I've done the top part of her dress and her ruffle here. So the dress and the ruffle here is the top bit on the page. I'm going to go back and stitch her face and the roses here later. Okay? What I'm working on now is working on the bottom part of her dress. It is a mini bit of parking, mainly because that's where I'm going to go when I get back to it. We were lucky enough as a family and one of my close friends to go on a cruise over the Christmas, New Year break. And we were lucky enough to fly. We flew into Miami, quarter cruise from Fort Lauderdale, through the Panama Canal and ended in LA. This was the project I took with me. I think during that project, I stitched most of this area over here, and then I was starting on the roses in her dress here. So I thought this was a really nice colour, like a greeny colour that would show make the pinks and the purples pop, but also wouldn't take away from the greenery that's in when we get to the roses. I really should get back to her. I do love stitching on this. I actually do love stitching on even weave as well. Didn't think I would. Alright, I didn't think I would. This is the very first time. Oops, sorry, I knocked the music down. Very first time that I've ever stitched on even weave. Very first time I stitched on hand-dyed fabric as well. So there was quite a few new ones. I just love the colours in this. I've also tried to keep the back really, really neat. And I don't think I've done too badly. Honestly. Don't think I've done too badly. Don't mind showing you her back because it's not my Heaven Earth design. So that's 3 I have. I also, oops, I got an itchy nose. You see, everyone has itchy noses on Flosstube. I do have one more WIP. I haven't stitched on this for about 2 years. It's not a UFO. I just haven't had the chance to stitch on it. This one is the Fantasy Castle number 4 by Stitchettes. I will insert a photo of the pattern here. This one's stitched on 18 count. So this is when I was very first getting back into stitching. This is what I've done so far. It's a very small pattern compared to what I'm used to. So I think when I go back to stitch it again, it won't take me long to finish. I think it only goes through to about here. So I don't have that much to go. I do have a lot to go, but compared to the pages I stitched now for Heaven Earth Designs, this shouldn't take me very long. I just love all the blues in it. It just looks like in the night sky. And there's like this right here. Oops, I'll get this bit going. Oh dear. Alright, right here, you can see a start of the ship coming out. I just love fantasy. Fantasy, mystery, like historical, magic. That's my thing. I love to read. A lot of my things I do read is fantasy. So this one here really links into this. As I said, I need to get back to stitching on it, and I'm actually thinking of taking this one with me on our cruise in July. We have our 2-week holiday in school holidays in July. I think it starts like the 8th of July or something like that. We're going on a 7-day cruise out of Sydney. So Mum and Dad are driving there, leaving the car. I'm flying in and joining them. We do a 7-day cruise out from Sydney, come back into Sydney. Then we're driving back to Adelaide through some friends in Gippsland in Victoria. So it's going to be quite a fun, it will be quite a really good break. We're just finished week 7. Week 7 at school. So we're getting to the end of the term where we've been doing all our marking. We've got reports coming up. I'm also a teacher of 2 stage 2 classes, stage 1 classes, so our year 11 classes for SACE. We've had to go through moderation for essential mathematics. So that's been a bit of a stressful process. So thankfully it only comes around every 3 years, depending what school you're at. It means we've had to send off a selection of student work to the SACE board, so South Australian Certificate of Education, and they basically moderate our work, see if our marking is up to standard, and we'll get that feedback soon. So we've got that all arranged as of last week, and Wednesday this week they were sent off to the SACE board. Hopefully all our markings up to standard. It was the first time ever being moderated, so I was very nervous about what was going on. Thankfully, the person who I do teach this class with, he teaches another one, there's 3 classes in total, has taught it before. I think I probably asked so many questions of him just for help. But yeah, that was the Fantasy Castle, and that's the one that I will probably take with me when we go away. Normally I do stitch using my iPad, so I use Goodreader on my iPad. Probably the reason I haven't gone back to stitching is because this pattern doesn't really work well on iPad. On the Goodreader, just the formatting and the way I stitch doesn't like it. So I have gone back to highlighting. But I might give it another try. Wow, okay. 30 minutes, just under 30 minutes already, and I've only just gone through WIPS. The next thing I want to talk about is the finishes I've done. A lot of these are going to have to be pictures that I will insert in. Most of the time when I've been stitching, it's gone to other people. There is one thing that I have stitched myself and finished, but I can't find it at the moment. It's somewhere in this house. The one that I have finished is Aurora's Garden by Bernadette Lusk. It was a freebie on the Heaven and Earth Designs a couple of years ago. I started it on the 1st of December 2014. So this was my first ever full coverage project. My first ever project that had more than one page. I stitched it on 18 count. And it honestly didn't take me very long. Let me insert a picture of what it's going to look like here. Okay, so this project took me 3 months to finish. I did start on the 1st of December, as I said. I finished it on the 11th of March 2015. I took this cross-stitch pattern away with me with Mum and Dad to New Zealand on another cruise. Yeah, we do like going cruising. It's the best way to have a holiday. So this one here went away with us. I stitch on it regularly. It's the first time I started using my iPad to stitch as well, and I just fell in love with it. I also fell in love with Heaven Earth Designs. Maybe one day I'll go through and print out copies of like just the pages of what artwork I have, because I do have quite a few Heaven Earth Designs that I would like to stitch in upcoming years. Alright, the next one that I finished was Tinkerbell. Basically, this is Pixie Perfect. This was for my niece Chloe. I bought it from Spotlight as a kit for her 3rd birthday. She didn't quite actually get it till she was 6. It did take me 3 years to finish. So, I do not have as I said, blah, 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 start the bit again. This is hanging up on her wall in her bedroom. I do have some photos of what it looks like hanging up in her wall. I also have some photos of what it looked like in frame at my home. But here is what she looked like before, just as a cover photo. So Pixie Perfect, stitched on 14 count by Brown Corp. First, that's really the biggest design I'd ever stitched, other than my Heaven Earth Designs now. It's also the first time I ever used metallic thread, and oh my god, I absolutely hated that. I also made a couple of mistakes that I didn't frog out, so I lost quite a lot of motivation to stitch on her. This is the one that I picked up, put down. I also remember stitching on her wings in that light blue, and I ran out of thread. At that time I didn't know that you could contact the company to try and get more thread. So I took my project down, went to Spotlight, and I tried to match it. In the photo you can't tell, but there is a slight colour change. It's not much. It is enough to make me picky, but yeah. When I stitched this one, I had no idea about making working copies of the pattern. My pattern is incredibly ripped and falling to pieces. I'm not actually going to show you the side where the pattern is, but I'm actually going to show you the side where, like the other side. It is falling to bits. So, yeah, I have holes everywhere. You can't see any of the stitching on the side. And anyway, if you did, it doesn't really matter. There's holes. There's stains. If I knew now, I'd actually use I'd do a photocopy and take a photocopy of it. But yeah, whoops. That's that one. Next, what I did was a birth sampler for my cousin. My cousin lives in Sydney. We've only seen each other quite a couple of times in person, but when we are there, we just click. He has a daughter called Arezi, and I stitched this for her. So what I did is I stitched the Peter Rabbit. I also I charted out myself her name and her birth date. So this was for, as I said, for Arezi, for my cousin's daughter. It was my first time using half stitches. It was on 14 count Ada, again by brand Cop. I think that's the brand that Spotlight used. So this was finished in a hoop. I do have some really great photos that Riordan took to show you of this. From what I can see, I finished it on the 4th of January 2011. So that I finished that 2011. He also now has a son called Raiden. I have talked to Rio and we've looked at some, I can't remember the name of it, a pattern that I will buy and I'll stitch that for Raiden. I'll insert the photo of the pattern in here if I can. The next one I did was a Dimensions kit. It was for my aunt who lives in Murray Bridge. She and my uncle absolutely love the sea, love the beach. This one here is the tape time from Dimensions. Again, I bought it at Spotlight. I stitched this, I think, when I was in year 11. Year 11, year 12 at high school. Mainly year 11. Would have to be year 11 because I remember taking this on our school music trip up to Alice Springs. I remember stitching this on the bus. I'm not quite sure if my aunt has this, and I also do not have a final picture of this. When I was stitching this one, I didn't know taking photos to look at your progress. Yeah, I did like it. It was a really easy stitch to do. Didn't take me that long at all. I again finished it in the hoop. Sorry, just going over here, I've got all my things on the table beside me. And drink of water time. The next ones I did, I think it must have been in that year when I first started stitching in year 10. So I would have been 15 turning 16, was these bookmarks. Okay, oh god, let's see if we can get rid of the glare without this. Alright, so being Australia, we've got a koala and a kangaroo. First ever time doing anything like this. So this was stitched on 18 counts, and there was enough cloth in here to stitch both of them, which I did. That year I was lucky enough to go to Italy on an exchange trip to stay with a host family. I finished both of these bookmarks and I gave them to the host family. Again, I don't have a photo, but I do still have the pattern. I think by that time it was actually charted in Anchor, so I have the, I can do the conversion DMC. I wouldn't mind stitching it again because I think I've learnt way more in the last 2-3 years about stitching than I did when I did this. Okay. Alright, the next one finish I have is the Baby Blocks Birth Record by Dimensions. I'm going to have to insert a picture of what it looks like. My sister-in-law did take photos of this in Chloe's room. The photos aren't great, so I'm not going to put them in. When I go to Chloe's place next, because I do a lot of babysitting for them, I'll make sure I get into her room and I'll take photos. This was my first ever big project. Before this, I'd only done tiny little smalls. I remember I was on a time constraint because I think I only started stitching probably February, March of that year. February, March of 2007. And Chloe was born in October. So I did get it finished before she was born. The only thing I had to wait for was the name and the date. So it's all framed, it's all hanging in her bedroom. It was the first thing I ever had framed. I think that time I was not working, so I think Mum and Dad actually paid for it. Again, I will insert photos there. The only other little finishes that I have are quite a lot of smalls. Okay, so I've just done a lot of small kits. I still have all the patterns here. I'm not going to show you all. I'll show you a couple that I don't have with me because I think I've either lost them or I did turn them into a card. But this one here was my very first cross stitch. Look how neat those stitches are for someone who just started. I mean, God dear. I remember that red bit took me like, I think I finished this in like an afternoon. Is it focusing? There we go. Really just loved it. And my back is actually pretty neat as well. For someone who's just starting, like, good Lord. Oh dear. Then I went on and I did this little pram. On the thing it has, like, where you can actually put the name and a date. I didn't bother doing that. But yeah, I don't think I did too badly. Looking back at these now. These are all just normal stitches. I did that bat stitch in 2 threads. Ooh, okay. Then I did a little rocking horse. These are all like little Semco kits. Tiny little rocking horse. You rock, rock, rock. Yeah, I started to carry my threads a bit, but honestly, not too bad. I have a whole heap of little mini Christmas kits. I like the patterns, but I hate the thread. I also hate well, they come with Ada, but there's not much room around the corner. I haven't really finished off into anything. I should actually just stitch the patterns again, but change all the colours to DMC. I also didn't like the coverage of the black. The black on here, I think this is 14 count. The black on here doesn't really, you can see like the white between it. Then there's a little Mr. Santa Claus going down chimney. I got my mum to do the French knots because I still don't know how to do French knots. If anyone has a good tutorial of how to do French knots or colonial knots, let me know, because some of the kits I have in my stash that I'm going to show use them quite a lot. So these ones here, I think some of these I did before I went out of my mini stop or cross stitch. Some of them I haven't. This one here is a seashell. Okay, so did quite a few of, hang on, it's that way. Whoops, sorry, wrong way around. This way here. These ones here, I think they improved the Ada that they put in, because they actually put way more in, so you actually had a good border around the edge. Did a flower. Whoops, should be this way, Felicity. Did a flower. Love that purple. Didn't take very long at all. I think these ones took me like 2 or 3 days to do, if that. I remember stitching this one to get back into it. Yeah, I remember stitching that one as well. That was like my pattern to do in between finishing Tinkerbell and starting Aurora, the Aurora Gardens one. Last little one, whoops, is a butterfly. Anyone who knows me absolutely knows I am obsessed with butterflies. I absolutely love them. They know to buy, if they want to buy me anything that has a butterfly in it, I love it. That's just me. I just love butterflies. I have for a while. Love butterflies, love the colour purple. Alright, what I'm going to show you now is just a little bit of what my stash is. I don't have a lot. Mainly, we're in Australia. It's hard enough to get things here. I need to show that one later. These ones here are just ones I've bought on either Australian Stash Unload. One of the most I bought when we were in America at the beginning of the year. I'm also a major Disney nut. I absolutely love Disney. My friend Chloe, not my niece Chloe, my friend Chloe, and I absolutely love Disney. Have for a while. Knows most of the songs. I cannot tell you what my favourite Disney character is. I cannot tell you what my favourite princess is. Love them all. I also have a favourite, my favourite painter is Thomas Kincaid. We have been lucky enough in our house to actually have 5 paintings of Thomas Kincaid. They are lithographs. They're not originals, they are lithographs, but they are stunning. We don't have any of the Disney ones, but I love his Disney kits and I love the paintings. The only Disney kit of his that I don't like that they've charted is the Peter Pan one. I think the charting on there is been not great. It does not represent the painting at all. What I have here are the kits that I love. I haven't started these yet. These are in my stash. I hope to start them soon. This one here is Beauty and the Beast. Ooh, glare. There we go. Now I understand what people mean by glares. I love this. I mean, I haven't had a chance to go and see the new Beauty and the Beast film yet, but I do love the original. The only thing I know about this one is I've heard that there's lots of French knots, which is why I need to learn how to do French knots. But, I just love this. This is a really good representation of the painting. Just, you can see the rose. I mean, you've got the rose here. Oh, God. Rose. You've got the invention, the castle, Mrs. Potts and Chip, Cogsworth, Lumiere. I just love it. I also have the one for Cinderella. This one I still think is charted pretty nicely. It's a little harder to get some of the detailing, but it's still charted nicely. You can see the castle. There's the Prince Charming and Cinderella, of course. Yeah, I have found them before. Oh, look, here you've got the little mini mice. You can see the mice. There's the fairy godmother up in the rainbow. There's the stepmother and the Wicked sisters. Oh, I just love this. It's got a lot of back stitch in it, and again, it's got a lot of French knots, so I need to learn how to do those. I do have 2 mini kits from the Disney Dream collection. This one here I bought when I was in America at the beginning of the year. It was the very first time I had ever been to a Hobby Lobby. We don't have Hobby Lobby in Australia. It was amazing. As you can see, yep, $14 from Hobby Lobby. I like this mini of Mickey Mouse because I have seen the kit of the full one of Fantasia, but I prefer the small one. I think it's just him. The only thing I don't like about this, the threads aren't sorted. So I have to sit down on a sunny day and go through the threads. Not looking forward to that at all. This one here is the last one I have from the Disney Dreams, is the Little Mermaid. Again, I love the Little Mermaid. The only thing is, I think I'll stitch this twice. I'll stitch it in the mini kit, and then eventually I'll buy the big one as well, and I'll stitch that. Again, I'm sorted. The other 2, the big ones, are sorted colours. Just looks lovely. I mean, you've got Flounder, you've got Ariel, you've got Eric. You've got the dog. Oh, I mental blank, can't remember the dog's name. Yeah, so I will stitch them. Whoops, glare. I have been slowly gaining a stash of Mirabilia patterns. I have fallen in love with the designer, like just the way the patterns are done. I love the colours. I think I mainly just love the dresses. That's my favourite thing, is the dresses. They are stunning. I do have 3 other patterns by Mirabilia. We'll probably only start them once I finish Roses. So this one here is Sabrina. Just look at that dress and those flowers. Aren't they just gorgeous? I'm not sure what fabric to stitch them on. But wow, that is so gorgeous. The other one I have is Queen Mariposa. Is that how you say it? Mariposa? That's just, I didn't think I'd like stitching something like that, especially with the, I think it's the columns near her in the frame. But, oh, she's growing on me. So I do love those. I do have one more, but I'm going to show you that as part of my stash. The other chart I have, mainly from Nora Corbett Mirabilia, is the letter F. Haven't stitched this yet, but I will stitch it for me. The only thing I want to do is try and change the colours. Try and make it more purples. Alright, I love purple. Purple and pinks, that would be me. But I have no idea how to do that. So if anyone has any idea of how to convert some of these to purples and pinks, or maybe teals or blues, let me know. I really have no idea. Alright, my haul. Honestly, I don't buy a lot. In my next couple of videos, you might see me buying a lot, mainly because I have in my cart a major bead order from 123 Stitch. Because trying to find Mill Hill beads in Australia is not the best. So there is a major, when I actually place it, because there's one type of bead that's out of stock at the moment, there will be a haul coming from there. I have joined Colour Cascade's Fabric of the Month Club as well, so I'm going to start getting some 32 count Jobberlin from her. I think it's like 18 by 26, but that will start coming. But this is the chart that I found on Australian Stash and Load, Gypsy Queen. It's just stunning. I love those colours in her dress. I mean, I'm not normally an orange person, but they're just amazing. So all the supplies, like the specialty threads and the beads, are going to come from 123 Stitch for her. From the same person, when she posted it, she also posted a piece of Colour Cascade fabric. As I said, I don't really have a big fabric stash, so I've just joined the Fabric of the Month Club, hoping to build up my stash. This was the Fabric of the Month for March this year, Forbidden Fruit, and it's on 22 count. It's like this stunning pinky reddy colour. Actually, the lighting's not bad in here. It's just mottled and lovely. I even have an idea of what I'm going to stitch on that. Whoa, not again. Sorry. I know what I'm going to stitch on that. I just need to get the pattern. The lady I'm going to get the pattern from is actually away for 2 weeks. So when she gets back, I'll get the pattern and I'll show you what that's going to be for. Just going to stitch it all in one colour. It's a piece of fabric that it's so out there, it just needs one colour. Wow, 50 minutes, and it's going to probably get longer, some of the photos in here. Alright, well that's the end of my very first Flosstube. I have to admit that I did start and stop this quite a few times at the very start. I started it, went, oh no, that's not right, and restarted again. So, I'm not sure how to end these. I hope you've got the lights okay here. I hope you can hear me alright. I have been able to film this tonight because both my parents are out in the city at an Adelaide Symphony Orchestra concert. Otherwise, they'd be here, the TV would be on, and I'd try and find somewhere else to film. My videos are probably going to be coming in around about monthly. I might try and do the Know Your Needle Worker, one of the tag videos. I think I've got the notes down here already for that. Might do that tonight, might do that later, depends how I go from there. But I hope you have a lovely time, enjoy your cross stitching. Don't buy too much, but don't hesitate to be enabled either. Have a lovely weekend or whenever you're doing this, watching this video. And I'm going to just say goodbye here from Flissy Fish. See ya!